Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurates the Raisina Dialogue in New Delhi. It's India's flagship annual conference on geopolitics and geoeconomics. Prime Minister Modi and his New Zealand counterpart Christopher Luxon holds talks in New Delhi, exchange 6 MOUs ranging from sports to defense. US President Donald Trump says he will discuss about Ukraine's land and power plants with Russia's President Vladimir Putin on Tuesday. And Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney meets France's President Emmanuel Macron in Paris. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and New Zealand's Prime Minister Christopher Luxon inaugurated the Raisina Dialogue in New Delhi on Monday. The 10th edition of the Raisina Dialogue is being held in New Delhi from the 17th to 19th of March. New Zealand's Prime Minister was the chief guest and he delivered the keynote address. Hosted annually by the Observer Research Foundation in collaboration with India's Ministry of External Affairs, it's India's flagship conference on geopolitics and geoeconomics. The event brings together world leaders, policymakers, diplomats, scholars and business executives to discuss contemporary global challenges. The theme of this year's edition is Kala Chakra, People, Peace and Planet. More than 3,500 delegates from 125 countries will be joining the dialogue in person. Over the years, the Raisina Dialogue has emerged as a key platform shaping India's strategic engagements on the world stage. Visiting US Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard called on India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi in New Delhi on Monday. The Prime Minister gifted Ms. Gabbard an urn of the holy Ganga water from the Sangam, where the recently concluded Mahakumbh Mela was held. Gabbard presented the Prime Minister with Rudraksh beads, which in Hindu religion is believed to aid in prayer, meditation and spiritual growth, to the Prime Minister during their meeting.
उस समय जो पानी होता है उस समय का ही दर्जा है.
Thank you very much. This is very good. This is a gift from me in my new position as director, and this is from Tulsi Ji. Tulsi Mala.
Defense Minister Rajnath Singh held a productive meeting with the visiting US Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard in New Delhi. Drawing from the joint statement issued after the recent meeting of Prime Minister Modi with US President Trump, their discussions reaffirmed the growing strength of the India-US bilateral defense partnership. The two leaders emphasized that strategic security remains a vital pillar of the comprehensive global strategic cooperation between the two nations. The two leaders explored avenues for collaboration in cutting-edge defense innovation and niche technologies, reflecting their shared commitment to advancing mutual strategic interests. Additionally, they address key areas such as enhancing interoperability and fostering greater integration of defense industrial supply chains to bolster resilience and innovation.
The tone and the relationship with our new administration under President Trump and Prime Minister Modi was set during Prime Minister Modi's visit to the White House. As you know, they are already good friends. It was a very great opportunity for them to share their joint vision for the U.S.-India partnership and the opportunity for us to continue to strengthen that partnership. So the meetings that I've had here with different Indian government officials and intelligence officials really is set on that foundation of how we can continue to integrate, how we can continue to strengthen our relationship, not only, of course, in my area of intelligence, but we're looking at commerce and trade and defense and education. There's nothing but opportunity that I see here in the U.S.-India partnership.
Defense Minister Singh expressed gratitude to the U.S. Director of National Intelligence for her steadfast goodwill and admiration for Indian culture and heritage, noting that such sentiments further deepen the bonds of friendship between India and the U.S. In other news, further cementing their warm and friendly ties, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi held talks with his New Zealand counterpart Christopher Luxon in New Delhi on Monday. The two leaders agreed to further strengthen their ties in areas of trade and investment, defense and security, maritime cooperation, education and research, science and technology, agri-tech, space, mobility of people and sports. Prime Ministers Modi and Luxon witnessed the exchange of MOUs on sports, horticulture and defense, a letter of intent on forestry and agreements on customs and education. They exchanged views on strengthening cooperation in the Indo-Pacific as well. Referring to the Christchurch terror attack of March 2019 and the Mumbai attack of November 2008, Prime Minister Modi said that terrorism in any form is unacceptable.
आतंकवाद के खिलाफ हम दोनों एक मत हैं। चाहे 15 मार्च 2019 का क्राइस्ट चर्च आतंकी हमला हो या 26 नवंबर 2008 का मुंबई हमला, आतंकवाद किसी भी रूप में अस्वीकार्य है। आतंकी हमलों के दोषियों के खिलाफ कड़ी कार्रवाई आवश्यक है। आतंकवादी, अलगाववादी और कट्टरपंथी तत्वों के खिलाफ हम मिलकर सहयोग करते रहेंगे। इस संदर्भ में न्यूजीलैंड में कुछ गैर कानूनी तत्वों द्वारा भारत विरोधी गतिविधियों को लेकर हमने अपनी चिंता साझा की। हमें विश्वास है कि इन सभी गैर कानूनी तत्वों के खिलाफ हमें न्यूजीलैंड सरकार का सहयोग आगे भी मिलता रहेगा।
Emphasizing that India believes in the policy of development, not expansionism, Prime Minister Modi said India and New Zealand support a free, open, secure and prosperous Indo-Pacific.
फ्री, ओपन, सिक्योर और प्रॉस्परस इंडो पैसिफिक का हम दोनों समर्थन करते हैं। हम विकासवाद की नीति में विश्वास रखते हैं, विस्तारवाद में नहीं। इंडो पैसिफिक ओशन इनिशिएटिव से जुड़ने के लिए हम न्यूजीलैंड का स्वागत करते हैं। इंटरनेशनल सोलर अलायंस के बाद CDRI से जुड़ने के लिए भी हम न्यूजीलैंड का अभिनंदन करते हैं।
Following the signing of the MOU, Prime Minister Luxon said New Zealand needs a stronger presence in India. He announced plans to increase their diplomatic footprint by over 60%. He emphasized the nation's commitment to strengthening the ties between the two countries.
And so to give effect to the various areas of new cooperation, my government has also confirmed that we will need more people on the ground in India. And that is why New Zealand is looking to increase our diplomatic footprint in India by more than 60%, underscoring our commitment to the relationship and our ambition to see it grow even further. And it is also my great pleasure to be able to announce Dr. Samir Saran, President of the Overseas Research Foundation and an organiser of the Raisina Dialogue with Dr. Jay Shankar, to be the next Prime Minister's Fellow from India. And I look forward to welcoming Dr. Saran to New Zealand and building even stronger engagement between New Zealand and India on critical issues facing the Indo-Pacific. So finally, can I just say again, thank you, Prime Minister Modi, for hosting me and my delegation so generously and with so much hospitality. We do look forward to broadening and deepening the relationship between our two great countries. And I also, of course, offered to reciprocate Prime Minister Modi's warm and generous hospitality by inviting him to New Zealand.
The Secretary East in India's Ministry of External Affairs, Jaideep Mozumdar, held a news conference in which he spoke about the MOUs inked between India and New Zealand.
They both witnessed the exchange of bilateral documents and MOUs in various fields. One was an MOU on defense cooperation. Another was an authorized economic operator mutual recognition agreement. A third on memorandum of cooperation on horticulture. Fourth was letter of intent on forestry. Fifth was on education cooperation. And the sixth was on as a memorandum on cooperation in sports. The two prime ministers also announced the launch of negotiations between India and New Zealand towards a balanced and mutually beneficial free trade agreement in a time-bound manner.
New Zealand Prime Minister Christopher Luxon called on India's President Draupadi Murmu at Rashtrapati Bhavan. Welcoming Prime Minister Luxon and his delegation, the President said India and New Zealand have close and friendly relations based on shared values rooted in democracy, rule of law, and strong people-to-people ties. The two leaders agreed that her state visit to New Zealand in August 2024 and the significant outcomes announced on Monday during Prime Minister Luxon's visit will impart a positive momentum to the India-New Zealand partnership. India is hosting the India-Europe Business Exchange in New Delhi. Latvia's foreign minister spoke exclusively to DD India's Deepika Mehto on the sidelines of an India-EU business exchange. The minister spoke about an India-EU FTA and India's impressive economic growth. Take a listen.
We have with us the Foreign Minister of Latvia, Ms. Vaiba Prashe. Thank you so much, ma'am, for exclusively talking to DD India.
Thank you for having me.
Ma'am, when we talk about the importance of India-Europe Business Summit, how do you see it?
Well, it's very important actually to concentrate on each other relationships because, you know, on everyday basis we all deal with so many challenges. So actually bringing companies together, bringing officials together, and also making sure that we have that space to address also complicated issues is something, you know, finding new opportunities, but also looking at existing relationships and if they are going well, I think is crucially important. So that is, there's a lot of potential, but also the existing relationships are important.
Once we have the India-European Union FTA, the free trade agreement finalized, what are the benefits that we are looking at from both the sides?
Well, the commitment both from India and from the EU is to finish free trade agreement this year. It's not going to be easy. I mean, the relationship is very rich. India, 1 billion, Europe, 500 million inhabitants, big, growing trading areas. But also, both of us, as the EU, but also as India, we have free trade agreements with others. So that will add to the free trade areas that we form. So I think that is crucially important. Companies, for people, for governments, for opportunities, but also for global impact. Let's not forget that we have to look also at the global impact.
Right. Thank you so much, ma'am, for talking to us.
You're very welcome.
So there you heard the foreign minister talking about the importance of the FTA, what she sees there in India as a pool of opportunity and a lot more. With camera person Sunny Kalra, this is Sipika reporting for DD India from New Delhi.
And still to come on DD India Live. Russia reiterates its demand that Ukraine be excluded from NATO membership. And EU foreign ministers meet in Brussels to discuss the Ukraine-Russia conflict.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
You're watching DD India Live. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Canada's newly appointed Prime Minister Mark Carney met France's President Emmanuel Macron in Paris on Monday. It marked Carney's first foreign trip after taking office. Speaking ahead of a working lunch with the French President, Carney said that it was important for Canada to strengthen its ties with reliable allies. Earlier, Prime Minister Carney visited the Notre Dame Cathedral in the French capital. He was given a tour of the cathedral, which was reopened in December 2024, nearly 5.5 years after a fire nearly destroyed the historic landmark. The visit comes just days after Carney took office as Canada's Prime Minister on the 14th of March. With the aim of discussing the Ukraine-Russia conflict extensively, the foreign ministers of the European Union met in Brussels on Monday. The meeting follows an informal exchange of views with Ukraine's foreign minister via video conference. The ministers were expected to discuss the latest developments in Syria and Iran, as well as exchange views on relations between the EU and the US. US President Trump has said that he plans to speak to Russia's President Vladimir Putin on Tuesday. He termed the forthcoming talks as a good chance to end the three-year-old conflict.
Maybe by Tuesday, I'll be speaking to President Putin on Tuesday. And a lot of work's been done over the weekend. We want to see if we can bring that war to an end. Maybe we can, maybe we can't, but I think we have a very good chance.
U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff has returned from what he described as a positive meeting with President Putin in Moscow. Russia has underscored its demand that Ukraine be excluded from NATO membership and maintain a neutral stance in any prospective peace agreement. Its Deputy Foreign Minister Alexander Grushko spoke about the importance of including stringent security measures in a peace accord. Grushko detailed that Russia expects these guarantees to ensure Ukraine's neutral status and prevent NATO countries from integrating it into their alliance. The U.S. has deported 238 alleged members of an infamous Venezuelan gang to El Salvador, where they've been placed in one of the country's most secure prisons. It marks a new chapter in the U.S. crackdown on transnational gangs. DD India's Aarti Rana has more.
On Sunday, a flight carrying 238 members of the infamous Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua landed in El Salvador, where they were immediately taken to a high-security prison. But the deportation isn't just a routine handover. The US government is invoking a law from 1798 known as the Alien Enemies Act, rarely used in modern history, to bypass the courts and deport these gang members with lightning speed. The Trump administration calls it a critical measure to protect national security. President Trump, using the Alien Enemies Act, has justified these actions, labeling the Tren de Aragua gang as an invasion, targeting the US. He argues the group's criminal activities pose an existential threat.
That was a bad group. When you look at them and you look at the crimes that they've committed, you take a look. You don't get any tougher, you don't get worse than that. You understand that. So. But you'd have to ask the Lord. And these are criminals, many, many criminals. Murderers, drug dealers at the highest level, drug lords, people from mental institutions. That's an invasion.
The deportations took place despite a US federal judge granting a temporary suspension of the expulsions order. White House denied that the court order was not implemented, saying the plane had already left the United States by the time. Civil rights groups are now sounding the alarm, calling the use of this historic law to justify mass deportation and abuse of the power.
The Alien Enemies Act was enacted in 1798, and it's a wartime authority that can only be used when the United States is in a declared war with another nation or another nation is invading our country. It cannot be used against simply a gang. And notably, it's only been used 3 times in our country's history, all during declared wars: the War of 1812, World War I, and World War II.
With legal challenges already in place, the fight over the Alien Enemies Act could redefine the future course of US immigration policy. El Salvador President Nayib Bukele sent the alleged gang members to the country's maximum security terrorism confinement center, which is a mega prison southeast of capital San Salvador with a capacity for 40,000 prisoners. Aarti Rana for DD India.
And now take a look at what else is making news around the world. Thousands of Filipino human rights activists marched near the presidential palace in Manila on Monday. They demanded the government to rejoin the International Criminal Court. This comes after the former president Rodrigo Duterte made his first appearance before the ICC, where he was facing murder allegations. Authorities declared national emergency after an oil spill in northwestern Ecuador turned Esmeralda's river black. Authorities also ordered residents to ration drinking water. The spill, believed to have been caused when a landslide ruptured a major oil pipeline, has contaminated a section of the river. Thousands of people gathered in Canberra, Australia to celebrate the start of the national capital's annual Balloon Spectacular. The Balloon Spectacular is Australia's one of the most anticipated hot air ballooning festivals, which will continue till the 23rd of March. Belgium actor Emilie de Queen, aged 43, died on Sunday from a rare cancer. De Queen made her debut in the Dardenne brothers film Rosetta, a performance which won her Best Actress at the Cannes Film Festival in 1999. India excelled at the Special Olympics World Winter Games 2025. The team won 33 medals, including 8 golds, 18 silvers and 7 bronze medals. The athletes performed brilliantly in snowboarding, snowshoeing, skiing, speed skating and floorball. My colleague Narayan Singh reports from Turin in Italy.
India's athletes have once again made the nation proud with a stellar performance at the Special Olympics World Winter Games 2025 in Turin, Italy. The 49-member contingent, including 30 athletes and 19 support staff, secured a total of 33 medals, including 8 gold, 18 silver and 7 bronze. Right from the start, India made its presence felt. The country's snowboarders set the tone for the campaign by clinching multiple medals on
the International Olympic Committee executive. Meanwhile, let's get you some latest visuals, this time of India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi along with New Zealand's Prime Minister Christopher Luxon at a religious event in New Delhi at the Gurudwara in the Indian capital. So if you're just joining us, these are the latest visuals of the Prime Ministers of India and New Zealand visiting the Gurudwara Rakabganj Sahib in New Delhi on Monday. Remember, Prime Minister Luxon is on a visit to India where he has just co-inaugurated and delivered the keynote address as the 10th edition of the Raisina Dialogue, and he held bilateral talks with the Indian leadership in New Delhi earlier in the day. Right, if you're just tuning in, these are the latest visuals getting from the Gurudwara Rakabganj Sahib in New Delhi, where the Prime Ministers of India and New Zealand have just attended a religious event. And that's all for this edition of DD India Live. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can get the latest news and updates on the DD India mobile app. It's available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code now on your screen to download it. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran from all of us here in New Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.